Welcome to the Connected Diaspora podcast, where we bring you insights on what's going on with the Nigerians at home and abroad in innovation, building businesses, and everything you need to know about the Nigerian diaspora. I'm CG.
And Nusa.
And welcome to the Connected Diaspora podcast. Nusa, how are you doing today?
Good. You're looking really
you
good
like to
today.
wear this white all the time.
Nah, you changed up with your glasses and your sweater.
What are your thoughts on glasses indoors?
I don't know if I like these glasses. I think I prefer like if I did normal ones you get from the doctor. Yeah, maybe.
Fair enough. So I see them off shit. You don't like them.
Why do you need them indoors though?
Don't worry. I'm trying to come like a cadavers, you know what I mean? Anyway, what are we doing today, Nosa?
And so today we have on our pod Miss Tolani Abere. Miss Tolani Abere has worked in a wide range of firms, and she currently works at a top global asset management firm. She's recently started a TikTok where she talks about personal finance and educating young people all around the world on how to manage their finances.
So without further ado, we'll welcome our guest, Tolani Abere.
Welcome to the Connected Pod.
Thank you for having me.
How are you feeling today?
Feel good. Yeah.
Talking money.
Good day
with
to
tea.
talk about money.
So how's your week been? It's like I haven't seen you in a while. Though. Last time I heard you were traveling somewhere as usual.
Yeah. Where did I go? I went to Montenegro.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was good. It was just for a short trip though. You know, annual leave. Like,
Yeah, it's got to be done.
you got to mize it.
No, I went to New York the other week.
Oh, nice. How was that?
2.5 weeks, amazing. America.
2.5 weeks. How do you manage
I
that with
saved
your
up
annual leave?
all my like annual leaves from February till September. Yeah, literally.
I can't do that.
I'm a machine.
Yeah, no, I just.
I got burnt out after like July, to be fair, but
Wow.
yeah.
You're a stronger person than me.
So speaking about strength, the corporate world takes a bit of strength, doesn't it?
I guess that's one way to put it.
So tell us a little bit about, your journey. Obviously, I know your journey, being your brother, but a bit about your journey coming from Nigeria, then coming here for A-levels, doing university here, then picking your career. But we just want to touch about the experience from a freshie point of view. You're fresh off the boat.
Wow, okay. My experience. I guess in terms of a background. So I moved over when I was 15. So after year 11. And then did A-levels for a bit, did that for 2 years. And I went to uni.
What did you study in A-levels?
Oh, God. It's a while back now. I think I did physics, maths, biology, and ICT.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Classic STEM.
Yeah. I've always been a STEM girly. And then at uni I did engineering.
What uni did you go to?
I went to Warwick.
Oh, okay.
So I started off doing engineering and I realized that I actually really didn't like it very much. So I ended up with with a degree in engineering and business.
Okay. So
Because because Warwick is a very like business uni. So you could basically just like mix and match modules.
And was that at the business school or the
the
WMG?
business school,
Okay.
yeah. So basically my final year I didn't do one single engineering course. I did all business modules.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you find that?
It was more up my street. Like I did engineering because I was told that if you like physics and you like maths, then you should be doing something along those lines. And
I feel as if it's kind of like the Nigerian career path that they give you.
I'm not even that. To
Be
be
a
honest, a lot of
doctor
my
or an
teachers
engineer.
at A level actually pushed me in that direction. But I just got there. I felt so out of place. Like I remember one of our first projects. I didn't even know what they were talking about. Like it was very. I don't know. Maybe they need to modernize how they teach STEM subjects, but I just felt like it was for boys.
Okay.
And the only girls that kind of like found their footing in that area were like tomboys. I just really didn't feel like it was for me.
But I think what I found is that people that do engineering, like after uni, they never actually go down the engineering path. They always venture to different places.
There's no money in it.
Yeah.
That would be the reason why. I mean, at least not in this country. But then again, in this country, there's not a lot of money in a lot of things. So
Well, we'll get into that a little bit. So after uni, you've, talked to us about how you got into the credit market, your first job, being in Nigeria, your experience from that point of view as well. And why finance?
Why finance? I guess that's like it's a loaded question because there's two questions in one. I guess I'll start with why finance and then how I got into my first job. So why finance? So I think I've always been interested in like the world of business and money. I don't know if you know this story because you're very young, at least compared to me.
Sorry. Aburoni.
But so for my 10th birthday, like I have two sisters that are older than me, and it was kind of pretty custom in our house. 10th birthday, you do like a big party. So I was coming up to my 10 and I was 9 and my parents were planning a party and I just wasn't feeling it. I like going for parties, but I don't necessarily like to be the one hosting the party. And secondly, I just had other ideas for that money. So I went to my mom and I was like, so this party that you're planning, it's not what I have in mind. I want that money and I want to buy some shares. And she was just so intrigued by that. Can you imagine like your 9-year-old child coming to you saying, I want the money to buy shares? Like it was definitely not the norm, especially in a day and age where you have to understand, like the stock market is very accessible today. It wasn't accessible, especially not in Nigeria,
1953. Take my glasses down.
I mean, we are talking over 20 years here, guys. Like we did not have like the internet at our fingertips the way we do now. So anyway, she spoke to my dad. And they ended up cutting me a check. So we did a party, but it was a very small party. And then the rest of the money, I got to open my first bank account and buy my first set of shares. And we invested in Wema Bank, which both of you probably are not familiar with.
Wema Bank?
Come on.
Isn't
Of course we know Wema
Of course
Bank.
you know Wema Bank. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. So invested in Wema Bank. And that was good. So basically, I guess I say all that to say that, I've been interested in like the world of investing and business and finance and money, like from a very young age. So it was always sort of in me. And I was always doing one thing or the other to try and like make money. When I would get money as a child, I was always saving. I was, thinking of how to grow it, how to invest it. So there's always been that sort of passion, right? And then in terms of how I then got into it as a career. So I told you about how in uni, engineering, I realized very quickly it wasn't my thing. So I knew that I wanted to do something in the world of business. So I graduated, didn't really have anything figured out. And then I remember there was this new program at one of the big 4 accounting firms. And it was basically like a rotational program. So you could try out each of the different business units and figure out what worked.
One of the big 4 or each of the big 4? Or
No,
just
so
one?
it was just in one of the big 4. And I'd done an internship in banking, like investment banking while I was at uni. So I sort of tried my hand at a few different things. And I think back then I was a bit deluded in thinking that you kind of had to know exactly what you wanted to do before you like picked a path. So I was very attracted to that idea
I think
of
a lot
like
of
trying before you buy.
students do that though.
Yeah.
And how many rotations did you do when you were...
So that was actually my first experience of realizing that the corporates look so like organized from the outside, but you get in there and it's just they're just as disorganized as the rest of us. So I think I did 1 rotation, no 2 actually. So I did the first one, and then they needed somebody in like audits. So I did the first one in tax, and then there was room in audit. It was the busy season. They did all the heads, so they just pushed a bunch of us there, and that was pretty much where I spent the rest of the year. The good thing was I got my ACA, so the accountancy qualification, which was really helpful because as someone who didn't really do anything financy at uni, I mean, it was very good to like sort of get that grounding. Yeah. I did that, and then again, go to the end of the time, and then extended. So I stayed on there after the year, got the ACA in 3 years, which is like the standard sort of graduate, program, and moved on. I just knew that as much as I liked accounting, it just really wasn't what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. But I knew that it was core transferable skills that I could use for something else. And then I used that to move into investment banking. And
so how did you do that? How was like the transition for you to like do that? Was that like, you were looking for a job while you were in the job, or something?
Oh, no. So yeah, I quit my job.
Oh, wow. That takes balls.
Yeah, I quit the job because I just knew that it was very busy. Like, don't get me, like, Big 4 is good for a lot of things, and I don't want to like group all the Big 4, and I'm deliberately not saying the name because I don't want to like down any company, but it's very long hours. And I think a lot of people don't actually appreciate that. It's like investment banking hours with like retail pay.
but I think the good thing about the Big 4 is that I don't know how it was like for investment banking, but and they're like busy like seasons and then seasons with that.
They are, but you know what they do when things sort of calm down?
Oh.
They just repurpose you to other projects where they need people. So it's like, yeah, it's good training, but and I understand that not everything is about money, but it has to make sense.
It does.
The money has to make sense. I could have stayed on that salary if I had time to myself and just use that time for other things, but you can't lose on both sides.
Lifestyle
You can't be
and-
completely strapped for time and completely strapped for cash. And you're just broke on all ends. Yeah. So, I mean, it didn't really affect me that badly on the money side because I was living at home still, so I wasn't really paying anything. But yeah, I mean, most people are not. They don't have that privilege, right? So yeah. So anyway, I quit my job, and then I found something else.
Okay.
But I didn't even have time to like apply properly because it was just. I was either like mentally drained when I wasn't working, or when I was working, it was just back to back.
Wow. And that's how you got into the credit market.
Yeah, so I quit my job and then I wanted to take some time off because I'd just been working for 3 years back to back, right? I know that probably that sounds like not that much time, but you know, at the time it felt like it was coming out of uni, not really having much of a summer, starting a grad job.
Yeah,
And
it's
it was a
awful.
very
Trust
busy
me, I
one
know.
as well. I mean, I guess we can all relate to that. So I quit the job and then started applying. And found something in banking. And yeah, I didn't really exactly know,
It's
but
fell on your
I
lap.
just knew that it was more important to get into the environment that I wanted to be in. And the reason why I wasn't comfortable in accounting was because it was very backward looking, very retrospective. As someone who actually cares about markets and is generally interested, you know, I remember it was like the year of Grenfell and so much was happening in the world. And that only became relevant for my job like 6 months later because that's when it showed up in the accounts, you know. So I just wanted to feel a bit more like in tune with what was actually going on in the real world.
Yeah, you
and I
wanted
wanted
to
a job
be-
that allowed me to do that. So I moved to banking. Obviously, that's like the beating heart of finance, right? Like it doesn't get more plugged in than that. And yeah, I pretty much took the job that I knew I could get easily with my background. And then I just sort of worked my way around from there into what I actually felt like was more me. But I didn't even know what that was. Like the job I'm doing now, I didn't even know that it existed at that time. So if I was waiting for like the perfect thing, you know, like, and I felt like I've been victim to that earlier on in my career. I was waiting for like the perfect thing, but you don't even know what's out there, and you kind of have to just take steps forward, you know, and
see how
try
you go
things,
along.
and then sort of cross it off your list.
And was it like an initial like hits for you once you go into like the credit market like industry? Like why didn't you try like assets and wealth management or kind of something else?
To be honest, probably if I had tried that, I might have liked it just as much and stayed there. You know, I don't believe there's like this one thing we're all supposed to be doing. I think like you're where you are for a reason. And if you like it, explore it. If you don't, move on. You know, I just so happened to, you know, find myself in credit.
Yeah, but I think what you said there about building that base, that allowed you that flexibility to go into anything really that was finance related.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That was the skill I was able to leverage, right?
Yeah. But so tell us a little bit about the credit market, because I remember you telling me a little bit previously, a conversation we had back then about how people don't really know about the credit markets and how massive it is, but they only know about the stock market. So enlighten us a little bit about the basics from a very simple perspective.
Jeez, you're putting me on the spot here. Okay. I think the reason why the credit markets are a little bit more like behind the scenes, so to speak, is because, you know, you have to be a sophisticated investor to invest in credit, right? In the sense that it's not immediately available to everyone, like equity is. Like anyone could just open a brokerage account and, you know, buy a stock in anything. With credit, it doesn't really work like that. But, you know, credit and just borrowing, I guess if we speak about it in more plain terms, but borrowing is, you know, I would say it's fundamental to just any functioning society. If you think about the most basic person, you know, trying to buy a house, to even like a government that's trying to stay afloat, or to a business that's trying to expand, you know, it's so integral to, you know, the things that we do in our day-to-day lives. So because of that, it is like all-encompassing, so to speak, and it's a huge, huge market. And that goes from companies that are borrowing from investors to even countries, you know, and sovereigns. Like, you know, whether you think about US treasuries or like UK gilts, you know, or German bunds, which is essentially just the local terms for each of those countries' debt markets. But if you think about the fact that all these big countries and all these big companies are all borrowing money, you know, that is bigger than the equity market cap globally. Multiple times bigger.
And how do you kind of like transition from something that's so like exclusive, like the credit markets, and then go into personal finance? That making money with tea on TikTok, Instagram. So how do you go from
Talking
something
money
so
with tea, bro. Get it
talking
right.
money with tea? I'm so sorry. And then, so how do you go from something so exclusive and then go into personal finance, something that's accessible to everyone?
And so I think they're kind of intertwined in a way, right? Money is a language that everyone speaks, or at least should speak. And I feel like that was the reason why I felt the need to like step into that conversation on a personal finance level. Like money is a big part of the conversations that I have with a lot of people in my life, from friends to family. And I remember like when we started having like the cost of living crisis, I think it was 2022, interest rates started going up really crazy. Inflation was moving mad. Money was like the talk of the town. It was just a part of like everyone's, whether people were moaning about it, looking for how to get more of it, thinking about how to invest it and, get ahead of inflation, or people losing jobs and, being anxious about it. But money was just becoming more commonplace in everyday conversation. And a lot of my friends, being like, I guess someone that works in finance, I'm sure it's the same. Like if you work in law, everyone thinks like, I don't know, how to help them get out of their rental contract, for instance.
Yeah, I
like,
keep talking to him about my pensions.
oh, you're a lawyer.
Yeah, no, I work in
His
like
pensions.
Oh,
Yeah.
exactly. Can you see?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's the same with finance. Like even though I don't do anything to do with mortgages, everyone seems to think I can help them, figure out what is the best deal to get on with the mortgage broker. But anyway, so it was that sort of thing. And I mean, I do know the answers to those things, or at least I have a good idea, but that's because I care on a personal level. And yeah, and through having those conversations with friends, it just became very apparent to me, like how little the average person knows, or how do I put this? Like just personal finance, like in terms of like the financial literacy, just wasn't where I thought it was, or at least not where it needed to be. With a lot of people around me who I considered very smart, very forward thinking.
Why do you think that is?
I mean, I think there's just so many layers to that. Number one, it's not taught in schools. I mean, we go through how many years of, formal education, and no, you don't even know how to do a tax return. Most people don't even know what a stock is. Like, forget even investing, but just even personal money management. It's crazy. So I think there's a big gap there, and if you don't sort of make a conscious effort on your own to sort of plug that gap, like a lot of people are just sort of moving blind when it comes to finances. Yeah.
And how have you found the Talking Money with Tea has enlightened people? What has your experience been and your feedback been from, the people in your comments, people you see on a day-to-day, kind of the speaking you do? Like, what's that been like?
I would say the biggest revelation for me, and I'm trying to think about how to put this in a way that is not, because I don't want to offend anyone, but I think the reason why I started the page
Offend
was...
people, I don't mind.
No, I need to speak about this delicately. I mean, the reason why I started the page was because I just felt like, number one, we don't talk about money enough, right? I don't know everything. I want to learn more. And I'm always like, YouTube is like my social media, because I don't really use Instagram
Same.
I wasn't using any of those things, TikTok, before I started Tolani Talks Money. And, I follow certain creators and that I think like are actually beneficial. Maybe they're not saying anything groundbreaking if it's stuff like you already know, but, reinforcing like concepts that we all should be aware of. And I just didn't feel like there was anyone who looked like me that was really doing things in that space in the way that people that looked like me needed to hear it. Right. So I guess that's why, to answer your question earlier on, so that's why I sort of stepped into it. Shit, I forgot your question. Sorry, Suji, what did you say?
I said, what has your feedback been?
Okay, so the feedback, yeah. So the reason why I started it was that I just wanted to insert myself in the conversation, not because I wanted to be online. Like, I don't even have a personal Instagram, so trust me, I was not excited to just put my face out there. But I started it because I felt like a gap needed to be plugged in terms of just people, and just to create a space where we could talk about money more openly, because I just hate the idea that it's this like taboo topic, and everything is being gate kept, and the people that know are not sharing, and the people that don't know don't even know that they don't know, But I think the biggest sort of takeaway for me, actually, since I did start it, was that if I thought the baseline was here, it's here.
Wow.
Like, and the thing is, I really wanted to speak to, like, as I said, people who looked like me. And I realized, like, because of, I guess the privilege, I would say, that, we've had, being, like, really educated, going to good schools, and, like, being fortunate enough to, like, have good jobs thereafter. And also being Nigerians that, I guess, are of a more privileged sort of
background.
Yeah, you think that everyone who looks like you has had something similar, and it's just not the case. Like, we are in the minority, you know, especially in this country.
So Nigerians don't really know.
It's not Nigerians, but I think
it's black people in general.
People in general.
Yeah, I think people of color are marginalized when it comes to financial literacy. And I think there's probably a lot of layers to that. Maybe there's a class issue as well. Or class has something to do with it. And obviously there's a correlation between that, you know, in a lot of countries.
And in terms of what you do you think you are kind of like demystifying like what finance is to like people, and then kind of sharing it to societies that they might not necessarily, you know, understand how to manage their personal finances and stuff, especially in Nigeria, like where we come from?
I think the first challenge, really, at least that I experienced, the first challenge is actually just demystifying this idea that money is something that you don't talk about. That's really the biggest hurdle.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, why is she doing that? Like, you know, transparency around money is not something that's common. In fact, it's taboo.
Yeah.
You know,
I heard about that in a podcast, and I feel as if the other day they were saying, because no people don't like to expose how much they make.
Yeah, I was going to say
But
that.
how much you make does not mean how much you have.
facts.
So like, I feel as if it's very informative when people tell me, especially people in my similar industry or people my age.
Yeah,
Just because it gives you a benchmark.
100%. Like, listen, I mean, before I started Tolani Talks Money, I didn't even talk to people. Like, I was not, you know, transparent around finance. I was inspired by other people that I saw, you know, doing something similar, who again did not look like me, but they're learning so much from each other. And you know, to get better at something, you have to talk about it.
Yeah.
You know,
Word.
but I guess when it comes to like, you know, money and transparency, well, that's, even though I wasn't someone who would talk about it openly, like with friends and stuff, the one cohort of people that I would never gatekeep like salary and stuff to is the people like around me, people I work with, because
You need to know how much
you
you're
need to
earning.
know. You need to know if you're being underpaid.
Yeah,
You need
yeah.
to know what the benchmark is. You need to know what the ceiling is. You need to know, like, if you're trying to move jobs or if you want to move industry, how do you know what to aspire to if you don't even know what's out there?
Yeah.
Do you know how many people have spent years studying for a degree only to get a job and realize, is this it? You know, like, we need to be more open about these things. And I think the US is a little bit more ahead of the curve in that respect. Like, I know in the state of New York and the state of California now, when you advertise for a role, you need to put the
salary.
numbers up front.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
You know,
even
and that's
on
important.
LinkedIn, you see
I
it.
saw another girl on TikTok the other day ranting about how she'd been put through, like, had to jump through all these hoops to get to the final round of a job interview, a job like interview process, whatever. I think she's done like 6 interviews. I need to find out that the money is even less than what she's coming from.
Wow.
You know, and
That's
it's like
crazy.
she could have been told that up front.
That's very demoralizing.
You know?
Yeah, and in terms of like your social media, so like how do you stay authentic? Because there are a lot of other pages that kind of post, you know, personal finance like content. How do you stay authentic to yourself? And another question as well is, how do you balance it like with your, you know, your personal life as well? Because I know obviously you have a 9 to 5 and you work. How do you kind of balance both?
I guess another how to stay authentic. Like I literally, like, I post my numbers. Very daunting. But as I said, you know, taking inspiration from other like accounts that I know, you know, are, I think, really resonating with people. And I think in our community, because money is so taboo to talk about, like, just that transparency alone like gets people's eyes on what you're doing. So that's how I stay authentic. I just speak to my own circumstances, and I'm not ashamed, and I'm not like proud. It's just what it is. You know what I mean? So it's not like one way or the other, because I think that's really like the fear when it comes to being open about stuff like money. Number one, it's just not done. And number two, it's like, what are people going to say? You know? So I speak my truth, and it is what it is.
Do you think people feel like, I mean, jealous or like look at you a certain way because you're posting that
You'll
much
be shocked.
money?
Some people look down. Like the other day, I posted like how much I spent on my mortgage, and someone was like, "Oh, it must be a 1-bed." I'm like, "Okay,
Was
yes."
that work?
No, just someone in the comments, some troll.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, "Yeah, is it 1-bed?" And they went as far as to say, "Oh, it can't be more than 400K." I'm like, "Do you know what? It's not even up to 400K. Thank you very much."
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
People on the internet, eh?
You know, it's just the internet for you, but like I take it in my stride.
And then for the second question, how do you kind of balance your, you know, work life with also making like content as well?
I think like you make time for what you find interesting, what's important to you. And to be honest, like as much as they're trolls, like they're really in the minority, like the amount of messages people send me daily, like the other day I was in M&S. A lady literally ran up to me. Like,
Wow.
honestly, it's like, I just see how much it's resonating with people and helping people. I get so many people DMing me saying, thank you so much. Like, you know, I'm learning so much, or, you know, it's probably too late for me, but I told my daughter to follow your page. Like, I want her to learn from you. And that to me, like, is the driving force. Like, it's long, don't get me wrong. Like, I think TikTok is supposed to post like, what, 3 times a day? I don't even think I post 3 times a week. And to be honest, I haven't even posted for a while at this point, but I do what I can do, you know? And to answer your question, that is what like keeps me going. The fact that it's actually helping people, because that was the reason why I started, you know, like any opportunity that came from it, that was never in the game plan. All those things, I didn't even know that many people would care, to be honest with you. But yeah, the fact that it's helping people and helping people who look like me and sharing that information that I wish I had when I was, you know, a bit younger, or even now, like there's people older than me that, you know, learn things. So it's not really an age, you know, or stage. It's like at the end of the day, you know, you don't know what you don't know.
Amazing. Yeah, no. Just Nusa going to the top. She's taking us out of the hood.
You guys are so far from the hood.
But amazing. So obviously this transition and like putting yourself on social media is such a big thing, and even this podcast for us, like us guys were shy. So how was that transition to have the, you know, audacity and the bravery to, you know, step out of your comfort zone to take on this endeavor, and what was the transition like for you?
Okay, so, you know, remember when I said I would see people that I would learn from on YouTube and stuff, but kind of felt like, wow, why is there no one that looks like me in this conversation? That probably happened about 2 years before I actually decided to, you know, get active.
Wow, two years.
So I sat on it. I was not someone that was comfortable even with a personal social media account, let alone a public one. You know, I don't have Instagram. I don't post online. I don't do any of those things. So it was a very daunting thing, 100%. I made the accounts. Like I made an Instagram account, made a TikTok account. And I remember when I did my first post, I literally like signed out of both of them. I just cried like from the anxiety, from the sheer anxiety. Like, so it was not easy by any means. But again, the feedback, the fact that it's actually helping people. You know, I had a lady the other day comment on, I'm like, I think she was asking whether qualifications help. And I said, that's really what helped me transition from something I didn't really want to do to something that I actually was more interested in. And the other day she messaged me on Instagram saying, you know, I just passed my CFA level 1. And I was so touched, you know, like it's actually helping people, you know. And I think that is bigger than your anxiety or like a troll that's coming for your 1-bedroom flat.
That 1-bedroom flat, you can't let it go.
It touched you.
I saved money to be able to buy that 1-bedroom flat. And this joker is trying to troll me.
And in terms of what you do, obviously you have a Nigerian background. Kind of with what you do right now, how do you see yourself, you know, kind of giving back to the community or like impacting people, not only the community you're in right here, also people back home in Nigeria?
So like I'm one of those people, like I guess I do what I do like more on a personal level. Like I'll never like come online and shout about like what I do like for people on a personal level. You know that saying like don't let your right hand know what your left hand is doing, and vice versa.
I read that today.
But yeah, I do believe in that. And I just really try and help. But I don't, you know, they say charity begins at home. Like I have friends who have like, you know, lost jobs that I would like, you know, help out. I have family like, you know, who maybe not as well off that, you know, I'll help out, or like people who like work for us at home, things like that. So like have I like been to like orphanages and like kissed some babies? No. But like do I sort of, you know, feel that like tug on my heartstrings when I see people around me who like could do their leg up? Definitely. And you know, I act as I feel led.
Yeah. So in terms of the whole being on TikTok and being, you know, in the public eye, how would you say it has, your experience on putting your kind of skill set online has taught you a little bit about the creators economy, and what are your thoughts on the creators economy and how you can potentially benefit from it?
I think that's probably been like, it's such a huge wow factor for me because, you know, I started the page and then life lifed. So I think I had like 3 weeks online and like 200 people like gave it down. So Actually, that's quite a lot of people when you think about it.
Yeah.
It is.
But in
That's a
the
little
in the
most
grand scheme of
purposeful.
social media, come on, that's not even a drop in the water. So no one even noticed when I stopped posting. So yeah, I started and I had like 3 weeks of posting, and then I think my flat got flooded. My whole life, at least it felt like that, turned upside down. I had to move out of my flat. So I stopped posting again for like almost a year, and then I started, I think, earlier this year. And I was like, do you know what? I'm going to take it seriously, because if there's one thing I do not like to do is fail. You know, I don't mind failing, but at least let me put my best effort into something. And I clearly hadn't. It's been 3 weeks, you know. So started again, and this time, I think the difference between the first time and like when I actually gave it a good go second time around was that, remember I mentioned I wasn't even on social media before. So I was actually then now on these like platforms, TikTok, Instagram. So I could see what other people were doing. And I could see how, like, you know, it's that transparency aspect in the personal finance space that really resonates with people. Like, you teach people about money, like using your own self as an example. Exactly, that authenticity. Like, people buy into your story. So I really tapped more into that. And listen, within a couple of weeks, I was getting brands emailing me.
Wow.
Like, wanting me to make content, you know, on my page. And if I had told you that I thought it would be that straightforward, like, a lie. You know, because it wasn't even something that I was thinking about. As I said, I started the page to help people. And the opportunities just started coming through. Of course, it became clear to me that, you know, opportunities could come from this. But I thought maybe like a further down the line thing. You know, there's a creator economy, like you say, and there's, you know, all levels of creators. Like there's, you know, micro creators, there's nano creators, there's all sorts of levels, you know, and there's brands that will work with you at every stage of the game.
So
as
you
long
see
as
the
you're
upside.
as long as you're I think the key is, as long as you have an engaged audience, if you're making content that really resonates with people, and you know people are engaged, they're commenting, they're asking questions, they care about your opinion, they care about what you're posting about, there's value in that, you know.
And do you think this is like a career that people could kind of like get into now? Because with social media, you're reaching a larger larger crowd of people. It's not just in specific area that you are all around the world. So do you think it's like a career that people could actually like get into?
And just to add on that, and do you see that as an opposing career path line than
The traditional
corporate world?
When you say opposing, you mean like you can't do both in tandem?
Can you decide, instead of, okay, I'm leaving university, I'm going to go to work for X. I'm leaving university, I've gotten skills, and I'm going to do this for myself and create content about it.
Yeah. I mean, there's people who have, you know, proven that theory, right?
Yeah,
that it is
but what do you
possible.
think about it?
What do you think?
I think, as with anything, everything is not for everyone, right? And the reality is not everyone is in a position to take those kind of steps, right? Everyone just has to sort of walk their own path. And again, I always like to say, is move as you feel led, not just what you think other people are doing, right? Because everyone's circumstances are different. I was speaking to someone the other day, and she was talking about how she quit her job, and she's really successful right now. She's doing great things. She's also in, you know, this creator economy. She has other things going, but you know, she's her own boss. And she was saying that she had 3 months of salary saved, and she took the plunge. And I thought, wow, I could not do that with 3 months. My anxiety is just not set up to operate on that level of uncertainty, you know. But there are people who don't even have anything saved, and they will, you know, put themselves in that situation, and they end up being successful. But the thing is that you hear of the success stories, you know, because there's something to talk about, you know. You don't really hear of the stories that didn't really work out. So that's why I say everyone's circumstances are different. Also, there are people making these kind of moves, they live at home, they don't have to worry about you know, making rents by the end of the month. There's people who are in these situations and they just have a natural flair for the game. They're just good at what they do. There's people who are in that position, they've been building an audience all through uni, and they're in a position to not have to take a traditional job at the end of uni. So again, circumstances differ. But, you know, to answer your earlier question, I do think it is very much a viable career path. I mean, look at traditional advertising. How many people watch TV in this day and age, like, you know, satellite TV or cable TV, so to speak, radio, all the, you know, previous traditional forms of advertising, they just don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and that market share is going towards the creator economy.
And in terms of like what you do, what do you think is like the next step, or like what is the next step for you?
I think for me, I guess just maybe gaining a bit of my own independence. You know, I'm at a point in my life where I do need my paycheck. You know, as much as I've been able to do well for myself, the lifestyle that I want to live and the life that I envision for myself, it requires, a comfortable landing. And I think I'm just more focused on, I guess building my self up to a point where, I have like additional income streams. Thinking about myself as more of like an entity as opposed to just like a cog in a wheel somewhere that, just earns a paycheck. I would say that's sort of like the next phase of like how I think about myself, in terms of next steps.
Amazing. Considering our series about entrepreneurship, I think she's telling us a few secrets about to come in the future. Watch this space. But, well, on to the last segment of the show, which is the fun part. Musa's favorite.
And pass.
Plug and pass.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you have
Sounds
an idea
interesting.
do you have an idea of what it is, or should I explain?
Yes, please explain.
So plug or pass is basically plug means you endorse, pass meaning you're not for it. So
Okay.
I'll give you a couple of scenarios and you either plug or pass.
Okay.
And this is very much talk money with T tailored.
Okay, nice. Let's go.
So splurging on a designer handbag versus investing the money.
I don't know. I guess half and half because half and half. We
We
can't do that.
You can't plug versus pass. You have to plug
Okay,
or
well,
pass.
I mean, in the first case, like, there's no way I'll be buying a bag if I don't have like a good sort of nest egg. So if I have to pick one or the other,
But what if
then
it's a
invest the
Birkin?
money?
That
Because
can be.
that's an investable
an
asset.
investment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hear that, but I just think like age and stage. If I was 21, am I buying a Birkin? No, because just no. Like I just think there's other things in front of me.
Yeah, how about now?
Yeah.
CG said this would be a good question for you because you love your handbags. That's interesting to see.
I mean, like, yeah, who doesn't like nice things, right?
Yeah.
But I wasn't buying anything expensive, like, earlier on in my 20s. Like, I think I bought like one bag after 1 year of working. And I didn't buy anything again until like, I don't know, maybe a few years after that.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah,
Okay.
first things first. I think that's a phrase I always use when it comes to like money and, to be honest, life in general. First things first, put certain things in place and then treat yourself.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I wore the sunglasses today, but the sun doesn't like that. Okay. Financial TikTok or financial Twitter?
Oh, I'm not even on Twitter, so TikTok for sure.
So you're plugging TikTok.
Yeah, I like that visual element, and I feel like TikTok is very, like, you feel like the people that, the creators. Like, it's like a
interesting.
community.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
why someone is commenting about your flats because they feel like
You have the audacity
That's
to talk about your
You know what? I appreciate all the engagements. I appreciate it. Please keep commenting.
Okay, on to the next one. Stock markets or real estate?
I think that really just depends on where you are in life. And when you say real estate, you mean like for an investment or to live in?
For an investment.
In the UK, the stock market.
Okay. How about in the US?
In like, economies where there's like a lot of growth, like look at somewhere like Dubai now and how the real estate market has like just gone crazy.
Yeah.
So where there's like real moats, and momentum, and I mean, you can't beat like something solid. The stock market can be very volatile.
Speaking of the stock market, there's been a lot of volatility and injection of cash into the Nigerian stock market this year. What are your thoughts on
Really, you know what? And I'm very embarrassed to say this, but I'm not.
Keep up.
I don't really know what goes on.
Sa's not happy with you.
I know. I'm not happy with myself. I need to do better on that. But I'm happy to hear. I still own my. So I remember I said I bought my bank shares.
Yeah.
So I sold. My mom asked me to sell them like 3 years later because she was like, they've done very well. They like tripled or something. We bought Access Bank. I still own those shares, so I'm happy to hear that.
that? Yeah, no, honestly, you should tap in Nairametrics.
Nairametrics.
Really?
So I'll
Okay.
send you a lot of things on LinkedIn.
Okay, got it. Okay, nice.
Okay, the last but not least, plug or pass. 9-to-5 security or entrepreneurial financial freedom.
Again, age and stage. I think like, especially lately, 9 to 5 has been, it gets a lot of slack. Especially with the younger generation. I understand why, like,
Or with the Gen Zs.
with the Gen Zs, like, you guys don't want to work. And I feel like I kind of get it because, if you think about, like, the boomers, for instance, like the earlier millennials and the lives that they had, and they were able to, get jobs and be pretty much guaranteed, like, a good life from there. A good paycheck. You could work for a few years and pretty much be guaranteed the opportunity to, like, buy your own place. Real estate was more affordable. Cost of living was not what it is now. But now it's almost like you could be working for 10 years and have nothing to show for it, because like the salaries are pretty much just funding like just survival.
Yeah.
You know, so I get why people are not really that into a 9 to 5, but I think 9 to 5 is more than money. It's about skills and, you know,
Discipline.
learning. Exactly. And
Structure.
right. And I'm not advocating necessarily for a 9 to 5, because as I said, age and stage, you probably get to a point where you then have to sort of like make a choice. You know, are you going to do the whole career ladder thing, or are you going to back yourself and actually, you know, make it go or something? But I think for most people, that's probably the more like ideal path, you know?
Because it is a path.
Yeah, like start in an industry that you have interest in, and you don't necessarily have to be doing your dream job, you know, and then use that experience to leverage on to explore something else, you know, once you have like a CV to fall back on and hopefully a bit of money in your pocket. So actually maybe that could be your seed capital. The relationships as well. We don't even talk about that. The amount of relationships, the network that you build, that's really valuable, you know.
I think, age and stage is a really good answer, because obviously it depends on where you are in your life. But to wrap up our pod today, in 30 seconds, if you could just look in that camera and kind of give advice to someone, let's say a young person in Nigeria that is looking to take the leap and, you know, start a new business venture, whatever the case might be, what would be your advice to them?
I would say when you think about networking, don't miss what's right in front of you. I think a lot of people, when you think about networking, you think about like, I don't know, if you're in Nigeria, one big allergy somewhere, or like, you know, this big MD that's like, you know, in this bank, or huge partner in that law firm, or things like that. But I think, you know, there's a lot of power and value in like your core peer group. You know, people are doing things, people know people, and that's going to be like where like your initial sort of ideas start to you know, take roots and germinate. So I'll say don't miss what's right in front of you. Build a strong network of people who are, you know, around you and who have the power and the capacity to take your idea from just an idea into something real. You know, I would say like having a good network of friends for me who I actually value and I admire what they're doing, that has been such a huge driving force in helping me get from like point A to point B, you know. So I would say that like networking is, you know, not just about aiming like for the top of the food chain. Sometimes it's about really leveraging and maximizing what is literally right in front of you. So I would say that.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us on our final episode on the Connected Podcast Season 1.
Yep.
We're glad to be a part on your screens, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you very much again.